The NEC PCFX home console has a pretty negative image. It's not like its predecessor, the PC Engine, which had a number of high-quality import-friendly titles. There are only about 60 games on the PCFX, many of which can be tough to get into without knowing any Japanese. But just because you can't understand one doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, and a lot of people look at a small portion of the library and come to conclusions, including the false notion that it mostly consists of simple, full-motion video-based games, or the idea that nearly every title features pornographic content, despite there only being a handful that are 18+. I'm going to largely skip over the history of why this system is what it is. Instead, I want to focus on giving you an overview of the types of software on the PCFX, how much of the library is viable to an English speaker, as well as the challenges you may face when trying to play these titles. If you like this video, please share it. I'm terrible at promoting stuff, and I want to help the world better understand this console. The majority of the PCFX's software was geared towards hardcore anime fans / otakus in the mid-90s. At least in terms of content, it's very successful in that regard, as many titles make full use of the CD format with animated cutscenes, tons of voice acting, along with highly detailed sprite art. If you love shows from the era like Tenchi Muyo, Akazuken Cha-Cha, or Oh My Goddess, you're probably gonna love what's happening on this system aesthetically. However, this target audience was typically older, which is reflected in its software. Many are dense with text or have complex systems. Romantic adventure games, as well as life and social simulators, are common on the platform. Even if a title isn't entirely set in these particular genres, they often carry elements of them. What might appear to just be an RPG initially may hide an elaborate relationship mechanic. Some feature erotic content, similar to what you'd expect in like a late-night anime series. If you explore the larger library, you'll occasionally see some skin, panty flashing, or adult humor. The small number that go further or cover more mature themes are marked 18+, though that rating doesn't necessarily mean they're not worth looking at. Across the board, most PCFX games have a heavy emphasis on presentation, along with story and characters. So as an English speaker, enjoying a large portion of this library comes down to patience, paying attention, as well as utilizing outside resources. In some ways, the platform's focus on presentation is a huge plus for getting more out of the stories. You can partially understand the context and tone of a scene by the voice acting in addition to detailed animations playing out. On the other hand, sometimes knowing exactly what is being said can be pretty important for progressing. That's where online resources help. English guides or machine-translated Japanese ones can be great assets, or a video playthrough can show exactly how to move forward. At the same time, the titles here are pretty obscure, so it's not uncommon if guides or videos aren't available. In these situations, one of my favorite tools to use is a Google Translate phone app, where I literally just point my phone's camera at the screen and it translates it in real time. It's far from perfect and rarely does it output a readable sentence, but you can often piece together what you need to move on. And if all else fails, there's always trial and error. Be curious, be observant, as well as save often with multiple files if possible. Having a way to roll back is frequently helpful, especially when there's more than one ending. If all that sounds stressful, don't worry too much about it. How much you need to lean on the above will depend on what you decide to play. There are definitely titles you can tackle without needing any help. This includes the shoot-'em-up Chojin Heki Zeroi Guard, the brawler Kishin Zenki, or the arcade platformer Chip Chan Kick. However, these types of instant gratification experiences can probably be counted on one hand. Though if you're willing to apply patches, a few select titles have fan translations, with some being more complete than others. Welcome to Pia Carrot is a romantic adventure game playable from start to finish in English, while some other translations, like for the Metroidvania-style Rurudidaruda or the strategy RPG Farland Story FX, focus more on menu and interface text, leaving the stories in Japanese. Yet even these kind of patches are few in number. To look at a larger portion of this library, you'll have to have a little patience. There are a number of titles that aren't necessarily difficult to play without knowing the language, they just have other things going on that keep you from immediately enjoying them. Like Battle Heat, a one-on-one fighting game that uses animated sequences to portray the action. The cinematic fighting genre never really hit mainstream, so in order for most players to understand what's happening here, they'll have to do some research on how this kind of fighter works. Another example would be the maze game Ojo-sama Susomu, where you can play as a thief infiltrating buildings while dodging traps. It requires some level of trial and error to understand how the mechanics work. In these cases, knowing Japanese would definitely help with reading the manual, understanding some of the dialogue, or identifying items. However, once you wrap your brain around these games, you usually can enjoy them as is. So if we take everything we've discussed so far, that's probably 15 or so titles. I think these types of games are what most people would be interested in checking out on the system. The rest of the library can be a significant challenge with only knowing English. RPGs are a big thing on the PCFX, though even on more popular platforms, most people are hesitant to jump into one they can't read. How accessible each one of these are depends significantly on its mechanics. Miraculum: The Last Revelation is a standard stat-based RPG. If you're watching this video, I'd imagine you likely have enough experience with the genre to figure this one out. If you want something with a bit more flavor to it, Makurura Makendo Z is defined a bit more by its anime humor and charm, while also shifting the battle system's focus from pure stats to selectively using a variety of skills to puzzle out encounters. True to the system, both RPGs are enhanced by animated sequences along with voice acting that help better convey what's happening. Meanwhile, other RPGs are going to take some effort. Abure no Otome's leveling system is a good example. It requires setting a weekly schedule for the main character to gain experience in a variety of categories. Or in Sparkling Feather, party members have to have a good relationship with the main character to be effective, otherwise they ignore commands. These types of mechanics aren't as foreign today as they would have been outside of Japan in the 90s, but you still will need to navigate a good chunk of Japanese to make it through. After RPGs, all that's really left on the system is the stuff that's heavily dense in text. Video games that are 99% talking heads. It's just you, these people, and this box full of this. While these titles don't make up as much as the library as you may have heard, they are plentiful, about equivalent to the number of RPGs on the system. Now you might think these are a no-go, and I'm not saying that's not true for most people. I would have agreed with you 3 years ago. However, for a reason I already made a video about, I sat down and played through the romance adventure game First Kiss Story. Instead of simply finishing it once, I ended up 100%ing it. I got all 12 endings of the various girls, even married my friend's mom. What's crazy is I feel like I know what happened in this game, and I used a combination of all the things I mentioned earlier to get there. I paid attention to the character graphics as well as voice tone. I mentally mapped out the locations the girls appeared. I saved a ton, reloading multiple times until I made all the right moves, and even with all of this, I was only able to get about half the endings on my own. Afterwards, I used a Japanese guide to help me finish off the rest of it. I absolutely did not understand everything in First Kiss Story, though it being a fairly straightforward romance tale was a big help in keeping me engaged. However, I ultimately feel like I experienced a good portion of what it had to offer. Do I expect you to do this? Not really. The point I'm trying to make is that with enough commitment, you probably can get at least something out of almost every title on the system. Now you may be saying, why go through all this effort for the PCFX? You'll find a lot of games like this on the PlayStation and Saturn. Some titles were even ported directly over to those systems. However, almost all of the PCFX's small library feels like it has a consistent through line. It's hardware built with a very specific feature set in mind, and a hyper-focus on an audience that would benefit from it the most. It gives the platform, as well as its software, a real sense of personality, which unfortunately has often been overlooked or in some cases demonized. I hope today that I've at least helped you better understand what is on the PCFX. If you decide to take the plunge into the system, I'd like to think that my approach will also work for you. If you want some guidance for specific games, along with this video, I've created a playlist where I'll be uploading short guides focusing on helping English speakers approach individual titles in the library. The intention is that these will give general information on how accessible a title is, considering its content, in addition to all the available resources. I'm not a PCFX specific channel, so I can't guarantee these will come out super often, but if you want me to prioritize them, please show your interest by sharing, liking, as well as commenting on these videos. I love this system, and I want to talk about it more. Thanks to Filler, who runs the Playongo channel, for helping me out with this script, specifically for RPGs, since that's a weak point of mine on the system. Check out his channel, as he has various PCFX related videos as well. Also thanks to Vink of Japan Retro Direct, who helped the video with his feedback. Check out his online store for various import games. I use it more than I should, including for PCFX titles. You can find the link for his website in the description.